who are the most successful characters in each chapter of Street Fighter. We're looking at Street Fighter 2, 3, Alpha, 4, and 5 to see which individual newcomer was the most beloved and most valuable to the franchise, all in this week's episode of Talk and Block. All right, we are talking this week, what is it about? Let me see my notes here. The Supreme Court leak and the effects of abortion. No, that's in a couple months. We are talking this week about the most successful characters introduced in each Street Fighter game. Now, John, we talked last week about the least successful characters. And to be clear, for those that didn't see that, first of all, you could definitely go back and check those out. And let us know if you agree with them. But also, what do we mean by successful and what do we mean by a Street Fighter game? We should qualify all of that. Before we jump into it, though, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'd like everyone to like the video if they don't mind. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out. It helps the algorithm. We like our YouTube and Google algorithms, don't we, John?
Absolutely, yes. Please, guys, yes. If it wouldn't hurt you too much, and you enjoy checking this out, and for whatever reason you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We're closing in on we're getting close to 9,000 subs, and you know what happens at 9,000 subs. So anyways, I don't know.
Two cardboard.
Oh, is that?
So we have
I have it up behind the green screen. I forgot about that because I haven't put the green screen up. Okay, so too much fun. All right, so what does it mean for a character to be particularly successful? What do I mean by this? I mean that they're going to essentially, at maybe the most general level, they're going to be a reason to sell more games. They're going to help Capcom sell more Street Fighter titles. And then it's also maybe like, has this character been brought back if they have an opportunity to? Some of the characters we're going to talk about have been introduced in Street Fighter 5, so they don't get this yet, but have these characters been brought back and used again? And then, like, how is this achieved? Well, if they are fun to play, if they're not overly frustrating to play against, if they have an interesting story and they contribute in a significant way to the overall story of the franchise, if they have a charismatic personality, and well, it seems like.
And if people cosplay as them.
Well, I was going to kind of get to that. And I think that falls under charismatic personality. But as we might see here, there is a kind of a waifu factor where you can definitely get some extra points.
What's the male version of the waifu, like the
husbando
or something?
It's husbando,
like
I think.
And
that's there too. I mean, if you go to a fighting game, even just a fighting game major, and you'll see, different kinds of people with every different kind of adjective in front of their name, short, tall, fat, skinny, every race, creed, and everything, and all combinations. But there are, kind of trends in the video game community, and we love ourselves some waifus and such. And so you'll see you can get some bonus points as a character if you're a particularly good waifu. So that's the gist of what qualifies as a successful character. And then we're looking at Street Fighter 2, all of the Street Fighter 2 games under one banner. So it's like Hyper Fighting and the new challengers and ST, all of that. So characters were released at different times in Street Fighter 2, but those are all Street Fighter 2 characters, and then Street Fighter, what is it? New Generation, Second Impact, Third Strike, all under the same banner. So if you're introduced in any of those three, you're under the Street Fighter 3 banner. Okay, and I think that's all of the preamble I needed. Did I miss anything, John?
No, the alpha games, though, could be a little bit of a different thing. Are those all counted as one, or are those?
But they're not. They all count as one.
All right, perfect.
Cool. And I'm not counting the Alpha Max McDonald's, whatever, handheld stuff, just the arcade ones. Okay, so... And I guess I should say this too. We did not count Street Fighter 1 last week because it's not a Street Fighter entry in the way that the other Street Fighter entries are. So, and it also, there's only one playable character. Ken's around as well, but he's a carbon copy of Ryu with some visual differences. So we started with Street Fighter 2, which is where we're starting this week. But I will say that as far as the best character, the most successful character, Ryu was introduced in Street Fighter 1. He was playable, and honestly, if Ryu is a candidate in any of these, he's going to win, matter of fact, because Ryu is a Mount Rushmore of gaming. He's recognizable not just in the fighting game community, not just in the gaming community, but in like just pop culture. Everyone knows who Ryu is, so he's the most important Street Fighter character, the most successful. So I'm not putting him in the mix for Street Fighter 2, which, now think about this, guys. You have characters like Guile, Blanca, Chun-Li, Dalsum, Honda. Not all these characters are equal in terms of their success. M. Bison, Sagat, Vega, Balrog. But hot damn, you cannot throw any of these characters away when you're talking about successful, important, iconic Street Fighter characters that have come back in subsequent games, right? So this already becomes very quickly a tough debate. And before I bias you all with the correct answers, I would love it if you would hit up the comments beforehand and let us know who you think are the most successful newcomers in each game. And John, I will turn it over to you before I reveal the correct answer. Who do you think is the most successful Street Fighter 2 newcomer if Ryu is not in the running?
Chun-Li.
Final answer?
Yeah, final answer, Chun-Li.
I said Chun-Li as well. Yes, the Spring Beauty, as I believe her name translates in Japanese. Chun-Li is, well, it really comes down to Chun-Li or Ken, right? As popular as Fei Long, Cammy, the other ones that I listed here, the original Street Fighters for all intents and purposes, Chun-Li is up there, and you do often think of Ken and Ryu as sort of the pair, the wham bam of Street Fighter, but really it's Chun-Li and Ryu. She's the one that's popping up even more often than Ken when they do crossovers, when there's other representation in other games. And I, like, off the top of my head, it's like she's not in Smash. And I think that's it. But like Chun-Li is in everything Street Fighter. If Capcom is creating toy trucks where that are represented by Street Fighter characters, Chun-Li's got one. You know, if they're doing a new Red Bull campaign, Chun-Li's got her can. She is everywhere. She is maybe the most cosplayed. I don't have statistics, and I haven't looked at the scientific data, but I would venture to guess Chun-Li's probably the most cosplayed fighting game character in the world. She's absolutely waifu status. She's incredibly iconic. She was the first female fighting game character in general, certainly the first Street Fighter female Street Fighter character. One of the most recognizable video game characters in history. John, what are your thoughts on Chun?
Yeah, she's on covers. She's in the Marvel versus Capcom games. This is like one of the most iconic video game characters ever, actually. So it's pretty hard to, like, maybe you could make the case for Ken, but even Capcom seems to prefer Chun-Li over everyone except for Ryu. It's Ryu and Chun-Li when it comes down to it. They're going to be in every Street Fighter game is what they said, right?
Right.
So here we are.
Right.
It's she is icon beyond icon.
Absolutely, yes. And so, like, she's been in virtually every Street Fighter entry since this time, since Street Fighter 2 when she was introduced. I have a couple notes here. Hella cosplayed, hella drawn, hella fan base, and then one that says thighs. And the reason I say that is not just the sex appeal, although Chun-Li does have that waifu sex appeal for a lot of people, and I'm sure she's getting some points for that. Her moves, her physical attributes are trademarks, and she inspired how many other or subsequent female characters, or even just characters in fighting games. Like, how many characters have moves based off of things like spinning bird kick, lightning legs, Kikoken? It's just like Chun is right up there with Ryu as one of the most important characters in the genre. So
I love how you bring up her thighs, or her thunder thighs, right?
Mm-hmm. And lightning legs and thunder thighs.
Yeah, it's the developer who drew her was actually obsessed with her thighs and getting them to look a certain way and approach and stuff like that, and it actually kind of made some of his coworkers uncomfortable with how obsessed he was with her thighs.
And I heard they kept revising, like, closer and closer to the end, and people were like, we need her finalized Chun-Li, and he's like, it's not final thighs. So
10 points, I did it.
It's amazing how that worked out, though, because it's like that's one of her most iconic features, right? And it's not a typical, what is the typical female stuff that guys chase, right? Boobs, butt, and face, right? So that's the big three, and the thighs aren't, but that's what she's known for, and it's worked out really well. So it's kind of cool that the developer picked up on that and made that such a big feature for her. And then we've actually seen people cosplay as Chun-Li and have those like thunder thighs. Like they're not unrealistic if you're strong enough, and strongest woman in the world, right?
Yep. We did and they had to have her be that because she was fighting a whole bunch of that was their justification. It's like, we got to make her particularly strong. She wears those weighted bracelets that have spikes on them and such, so she can hang with the dudes, and she absolutely does in hand-to-hand combat. All right, the Street Fighter Alpha games. John, I'm going to turn it over to you. Who is the most successful character in Street Fighter Alpha?
Rose.
Oh, you would. I know. It's not the right answer, but is that what you want to go with? We'll let you go with it. We'll give you half credit.
Yeah, there you go.
All
so
right.
What do you got?
I got Sakura. I don't think there's any way really around Sakura. She's no Chun-Li, but hot damn is she mega popular. A total waifu, although in a somewhat different way. And maybe we can get into this because, when you say it's waifu like Chun-Li, it's like she's incredibly strong, incredibly able, and there's a particular, there's a large swath of gamers that are attracted to that kind of a thing. Sakura speaks the language of the schoolgirl, so to speak. And although I think here in the West we have that, like, the Catholic schoolgirl thing. This is like the Eastern non-Catholic, but still a schoolgirl. And there is just such a fan base for her. Zip back to in Street Fighter V, the earlier years before she was introduced as DLC, and it was talks of you need Sagat and you need Sakura as, I wouldn't say non-negotiables, but those were the people. Those are the characters people were hunting down for DLC. Hunting down's not the right term, but they really wanted and they were discussing and really hoping for. And it was like, it felt like once Sakura was introduced that a box that absolutely needed to be checked by the fandom or for the fandom was finally checked, even though she hasn't amounted to a ton in Street Fighter V. But what do you think when you see Sakura?
Yeah, that would actually be my pick overall if I wasn't biased as all heck.
Right.
But of course I am, so I have to go that way. But she's been a great character. She's cosplayed quite a bit. There's kind of a running joke about her because she was in high school in the Alpha games, and so they've progressed quite a bit past there. But she's still like in the Street Fighter 4. She's still wearing her high school outfit, and like she's like getting interviewed, and then the reporter's like, "Are you still in high school? Because why are you still wearing that?" And she's got a really good thing going with Blanca and Dan. She's kind of a joke character, but kind of not. Like she's got a role in the plot, but her role is usually as comedic relief and to kind of have fun and stuff. So it's she's a cool character overall. I really like what they've done with her. She usually has a really interesting fighting style too. She's kind of a Shoto character, kind of not. But Capcom usually does really interesting things with her every single time out, and she's a fun character to play.
She's got what I guess I would say is something like a ribbon dancer flair or grace to an otherwise Shoto moveset, if that makes any sense. If you even know what a ribbon dancer was, maybe I'm old. But like just this, like flowing kind of grace to the Tatsu, a flowing to the,
do more of the ribbon
to
dancing,
the DP,
John. I'd like
the
to.
ribbon dancer. It was a toy that I remember when I was a kid growing up. My sister had one. Anywho, she's also got a very, I don't know if it's relatable. I think the word is relatable, but her story where she's in this like pursuit of Ryu for multiple reasons, and she's kind of confused about her feelings toward him. Does she want him as like a training partner, to a teacher, a love, both? ¿Por qué no los dos? That is somewhat charming, and it's fun to see. And we're like, all right, what happens next with Sakura? And you're right, that part of the story doesn't usually resonate with the overall big important what's going on with Shadaloo and are we saving the world? But it is charming. It is fun to hear about. We do want to see what happens next. And so yeah, she's been back in Street Fighter 4. She came back, like we just said, in Street Fighter 5. She's in a handful of other crossover and non-fighting titles, so she does get a good bit of representation. Now, Capcom Capcom's actually run 2 different character popularity polls in the last 10 years or so, one of which was in 2017, and that was very much in the context of Street Fighter V, because 5 had just come out, and we had like the first season of DLC was either coming out or was halfway out or something like that. But we didn't know what all those characters were outside of leaks, and it wasn't sure. But she was number 1 in that poll as most requested. But I bring all that other stuff up is because the context of the poll is probably more people wanted these characters in Street Fighter V. There was another poll conducted by, I think, Combo Fiend back in 2013, and they showed the results there at, I think it was PAX East, and there was a certain someone who on EventHubs logged those results, because I couldn't find the exact like Capcom page for it, but I found it on one of our old stories. The most just beloved fighting game characters, and Sakura showed up on that one as let me see here, 6th overall. So first in the 2017 poll, 6th in the 2013 poll. She's up there. She's important to people. So.
Yeah, it's her and Karen have got some good ties and stuff together, and it's they've done a really good job with Sakura, like making her a brand new IP character and getting them to take off. And later on in the game's lifespan, the alpha games came after they did a bunch of iterations of the Street Fighter 2 games, and people were kind of done with the franchise a little bit. And Sakura comes along in Street Fighter Alpha 2, and she's been an explosive character pretty much ever since, and it's a big success for her. It's most characters Capcom does do not take off like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Street Fighter 3. This was one of the 2 hardest ones for me to pick.
Yeah.
And Street Fighter 3 has a lot of new characters. Some of them are incredibly forgettable. Others have... what do you think? Who do you think it is?
I would have 2 picks here. And these two picks might be a little bit dicey, but they would be Alex and Ibuki. Those are the 2 ones that jump out at me the most as being most successful, but I agree with you. These ones are hard to pick.
Yeah. I had Alex and Ibuki. I had Dudley as a potential. Makoto is strangely high up there. But I ultimately went with Ibuki because Ibuki she's not... I dare say she's not quite as, like, I'm bringing again waifu as the others here, but she's a decent amount. She's a ninja, she's fun to play, and she's fun to watch. And I think that might be her biggest appeal. She's also been back. So she was introduced in Street Fighter 3. She was brought back in Street Fighter 4. She was brought back in Street Fighter 5. They had her in Cross Tekken. She's been around since she was introduced. And on the character ratings poll or popularity poll, I believe she was like around 12th in the 2013 one, and then like 31st in the 2015 one. So again, not as generally charismatic, but I think Ibuki has always been she's a high flying zippity ninja. Like, that's really cool. And when you see someone like Fujimura kind of master that, Ibuki or Fujimura kind of look like the best player in the world in those top 8s where he was just going crazy. And the kinds of displays that this character has basically provided for have been really cool, really entertaining, really inspiring, and I think that is a lot of where her charisma comes from. But
she's super stylish. That's one of the things about Ibuki. She's got a lot of stuff she can do, and it's funny, her moveset, it's you would not think it would be as flashy and kind of as crazy as it is, but it's very well done. And then she's actually one of the few ninja characters in the game. Like there's not a lot of ninjas in a fighting game, which you would think, okay, why did that happen, but she's one of the few ninja schoolgirl, kind of thing. She's like 13 years old or something like that. Like she's like super young.
Is that in Third Strike, which is the oldest game, and then she pops up in... So we have like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kicking,
pretty much
kicking Zangief's butt.
So Capcom's pretty much like kind of gotten rid of ages and other stuff like that as much as they can. I think they got into a little bit of trouble with Ibuki because she is so young. Like, they had to be careful how they displayed her, and I think they've kind of like retconned that and kind of made her like organically older, because she certainly doesn't look like she's 10 years old in like Street Fighter 5. She definitely looks young, but she does not look like she's like 10 or something like that. Yeah. So, but she's an interesting character. I think one of her biggest maybe standout trait for me is just her robbery, very intense rushdown style of gameplay, which is actually really cool if it's implemented right. We've seen some times where it's been done well in Street Fighter 5 and not done well. In Third Strike, it was
it's
really
sensitive and dangerous, and it can really easily become OP or broken. But
yes.
when it's tuned right.
in Third Strike, it was super flashy and super fun watching her do her stuff. Like she's always been generally a very fun character to watch. Her Street Fighter 4 version is probably her worst version. That one was ridiculous in how much Oki and just
She was a vortex.
she was stupid beyond all belief in that game. And in Street Fighter 5, they've got her in a much more better spot overall now. She's about where she should be. But generally speaking, again, a lot of people gravitate towards that style of play. They like it. They love that crazy rush down robbery, and she fits that role super perfectly because of the style, the flash, and generally the high level of execution she needs to do all that stuff.
Very entertaining. Now, I do want to say, like, shout outs to Alex because he has never been he's got charisma despite not being a very high tier character. So it's like you don't have the enjoyment of being like a character that's easier to win with and satisfying in that way, particularly. And yet he has remained charismatic through his like joke status in Street Fighter 5. And he was never very great in Street Fighter 3, despite being the game's protagonist, right? So I do want to give a shout out to Alex that Capcom has been especially successful with him. There's some kind of magic that they captured with him that's worth noting, you know, as for what we're talking about here. But I don't think he's as successful as Ibuki. That could change in the future. We will see. But let's jump over to Street Fighter 4. There are a handful of duds in Street Fighter 4, but there are a few very successful characters. You got the likes of Sea Viper and I don't want to expose too many names here. Who's your Street Fighter 4 pick?
I think we're gonna have the same pick here.
I think you can't. It's the most successful of these by far.
Yeah,
and it's got to be
hands down
Jury, right?
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah, and Jury, she overnight reached. I don't want to say the same level as Okay, look, I look up a lot of both cosplay galleries and art galleries for the front page, and I see characters Chun-Li, Morrigan, Mai, like all the time. All the time. And Jury is right up there with them. People love drawing Jury, and sometimes you'll see like 6 Juries and then another character, and 6 more Juries and another character, because people have fallen in love. They have so much passion for the Street Fighter 4 Taekwondo fighter from Korea, and she's so well done that it almost makes it look like it's easy to do this. Like Capcom it's natural. Like they just we'll just make Jury. She has this personality. She has this fighting style. She looks like this, and here she is, and she's a grand slam. Matter of fact, and she's immediately comes back in Street Fighter 5 after being introduced in 4. And I think she's going to be sticking around for a long time because she oozes charisma.
They not only did they nail the look of her, but they nailed the voice actress, her personality. It is perfect. It's dead on. It's not a derivative of any other character they've done. She has her own personality. She has her own basis. She wins the Street Fighter 4 tournament. She kills Seth. She does all this cool stuff, and it's like, man, they really set her up so well. And then Korea just being this huge place for fighting games and of course esports in general. It was such a great idea to make a character from there and really honor those people. It's awesome. Like she is just such a great character. She's not entirely bad. She's not entirely good. Kind of an anti-hero type of character. Fascinating. Very, very, very well done.
She is so strong and able. She's not dependent seemingly in any way, and she gets her way. She is a force to be reckoned with, and like that's something that I again say this word charisma over and over again. She just has so much of it. And I was watching and we'll put it up here, the ending of Street Fighter 4 when she defeats Seth. And, Seth is one of those boss characters. The AI reads your inputs and such. So especially if it was like the first time you beat him, you feel this power. And then you see this ending where she's got him down on the ground and just is standing over him. And like, might even be distracted as she's thinking about the next thing she's doing because she gives so little of a care. And he's like, "Oh, I'll get you," and then she just kind of smirks, kicks him over, and then does like this Statue of Liberty kick and brings it down and smashes his like yin yang stomach and essentially kills him there. And then looks at the camera, winks, licks her lips, and has that little gleam. And I forget exactly what she says as you see the subtitles there, and just like walks off into the distance. And that could very easily be corny, but it's not, man. Like I'm not a super Jury fan. I appreciate her and everything, but I saw that and I got a little bit goosebumps, because they and that was with the sound off. I wasn't even watching with the sound. So man,
Well, her voice actress, she the English one speaks with such like a kind of a sultry but like venomous kind of thing, like she's the spider, right? She's gonna kind of lure you in and bite you, and it's so well done. It's just such a captivating character.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't presume to know too much, but there's got to be some psychology there with relationships with moms and stuff. And Jury, don't want to put you in a box, but there's something at work there. So, all right.
Thanks for talking about her relationship with my mom and Jury.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching the show, Mom. Love you.
Hey, John's mom. All right, so Street Fighter V. This was also a very difficult one for me to hammer down, mainly because no one stands out to me like Jury. For this, it was kind of like, I've really got to sort of split hairs here to figure out who's in front, and maybe this will change. And also, we have the least amount of information here because these characters haven't had an opportunity to show that they're coming back. One of the examples, Luke, is in the running, technically speaking, but he is the freshest Street Fighter character yet. He's only been around for, get this, about 6 months. Can you believe Luke's been around for like 6 months already? That's crazy to me. Yeah. We're getting old. But who did you have for Street Fighter V? Most successful character?
I don't have a lot of big standouts, unfortunately, on this one. I kind of, this is one of the more weaker ones, kind of like Street Fighter V, or Street Fighter 3, almost like the odd-numbered games are cursed.
Weird.
But I would say actually Laura and then G would be my two picks.
So you think Laura over G?
I would think Laura over G just because I'm really fond of Laura. Laura is one of the most gorgeous video game characters I've ever seen. Her and Chun-Li in Street Fighter V are ooh la la. Yeah.
And not Minot. You were a Minot player for a while.
Yeah, Minot is not my style of. I like more of the.
Minot, your thing. Okay, I went with G, and for those that have been listening to the podcast for a while or reading the stories from a couple years ago, I did not like G as far as fighting against him. He was one of the most, maybe the most for a while, frustrating characters to play against. And I'm still picking him here. And it's again, his competition is not as strong as some of these other games that we've been talking about here. But what I do know is that G is very interesting in the story and the contributions. The mystery that surrounds him is something that has us kind of sitting on the edge of our seats waiting to see what happens next, because he is mysteriously powerful, seemingly benevolent, with an obvious, like, he's going to have a turn and he's going to be evil in some way, almost certainly. And he seems to be connected to Q, who has a lot of charisma and a lot of mystery around him from Street Fighter 3. All of those things add up to a decent bit of character intrigue, and with where the story is going generally, he seems to be very much connected to what they're going to do in Street Fighter 6. I think they're setting up to bring him back, maybe as a boss character. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself there. So very interesting design story-wise. Also, very interesting character to watch. Maybe not the most entertaining, but he's got a very esportsy style where he explodes forward and sets you on fire and launches you up and kicks you with rainbow sort of arc kicks and can melt life bars. And while that sucks to have happen to you, they have toned it down where I don't know if it's in the perfect place, but it's in a much more palpable or digestible place. And I should say palatable place, I think is what I was going for there. But then at the same time, he's got that 12-frame command grab, which a lot of this is because of Smug's charismatic personality and delivery on his stream and such. But
acting like you won't get command grabbed is like one of the best catchphrases ever. That's so good. So shouts to Bryant there.
And so Capcom designed this character like that started with Capcom designing for him to have, you basically want to protect low, block, block, block. But he does have this command grab, and it's one of, I don't know off the top of my head if it's the longest command grab, but 12 frames is nothing to scoff at. Yeah. That's a long time, and so it means something. And Smug observed that, captured it, and put it out there in a way that's really entertaining. And it's not just that Smug does it, although he adds a lot to, I think, this character's not personality, but just popularity. But I think he's fun to watch. He's very interesting as a character that contributes to the story. I like his design, his presentation at Evo with the voice actor coming out, and you actually noted
so
this,
good.
was actually a really cool like first introduction.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I think we've been on board with G since we saw him. In fact, even since we saw him in the arcade edition, teaser or the trailer, and we just saw him point at the camera, and then we're like, who is that? What is it? What is he the gorilla? He's had a lot going for him. You could argue other characters, maybe Laura and such, but I have to admit, even though I did not like fighting him for a very long time, I gotta go with G.
Yeah, his English voice actor is great. His Japanese voice actor is also great because he says "power to the Asu."
Power to the
It's hilarious whenever you hear that, especially with all the animations and stuff she has. But maybe my favorite thing about G is the fact that Capcom's like, hey, Nikali sucks as a boss character. Let's random select and see who we fall on, and then that's going to be the boss character of Street Fighter 5. Oh, it's G. Here we go. All right, G is a boss character now, everyone. Here we are. We definitely planned this all along. Let's go.
He has a lot of the potential that Nikali had, and maybe still has.
Yeah.
But he was a mysterious new boss character that was tied to like deeper and more powerful things. And it's like, how is this going to play out? It's just that they totally fumbled the ball with Nikali and kind of passed it over to G. And hey, he's taking it and running with it. So very good. I also say that his level up system is very interesting because you can very obviously see, okay, he gets the knockdown, he makes the choice to level up. Now he has access to new things, but the other person has the onus on them to try to knock him down. And that little back and forth is very easily observable and fun to watch. So
I have to mention because Dream King, he was a G main for the longest time, and I remember when G got it announced as a boss character. Yeah. And but anyway, we're like, Steven, like, did you know G was a boss character in this game? Like, did you ever hear that before? And he's like, dude, I followed almost everything about G. I had no idea that was a thing. Like, that was shocking to me. Like, all of us were just kind of like, oh, okay. And it's like you said that G picked up the ball and kind of ran with it. It's like Capcom like handed him the ball and he's like, what's this? What does this mean? And then they're like, you're the boss, go for it. And he's like,
and he just did EX low rush all the way to the end zone.
Yes. Yeah, 12 frame command grab the ball, I guess, or something like that. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, G is actually a very cool character. They did make the right choice, switching option, selecting it over to G, kind of thing. It's Nikali kind of sucks. He's just not interesting. They did not do a good job with the character, and probably should go away forever. Yeah, probably. Sorry, John. You even talked about replacing with like an Aztec warrior instead. You're like, they should do what they were going to do in Nikali originally, but replace them with a whole different character.
I did say that. The warrior prophet.
Yeah,
hey, that's a good idea.
It actually would be way more interesting. So yeah.